Welcome back to Games Revealed, and today I want to talk about a couple of devices that just didn't quite make it to market or were just teased about. And this is just in light of Steam Deck coming out. They did it. They did what so many others haven't done. Albeit, Ioneo and One X Player, yeah, they did it. But there are plenty of very ambitious projects that never did come to light, and I would consider Steam Deck a very ambitious project because it was preached that it was going to be Steam OS and Linux, and there's a lot of complexities that come into that, and it definitely is still being ironed out right now. But there's a lot of interesting projects that came before. So before we jump into it, make sure to like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar, and comment below if there's anything I've missed from the projects, because there's a couple of interesting ones, and I definitely am curious if I missed anything here. But there are three that we're going to talk about today. Three main projects, and then I'll do a couple of hints of some other gaming handhelds that didn't quite succeed so well, but these are PC specific today. And let's jump into it. Razer Switchblade. It was teased January 5th, 2011. And this device, it was a small handheld laptop. They had a form factor around this time of these small laptops that, albeit actually could kind of play games. I played one that was it was on an Atom processor, just to like add some more light to this, which is very underpowered processor at the time, very weak. But I was able to play World of Warcraft on the lowest settings during college. Don't tell my professors, but yes, during some of my classes, I would take this little notebook that was like 11 inch, maybe 10 inch. I think it was either between 10 and 11 inches notebooks that could potentially game a little bit. I had an AMD one, and I actually quite liked it. And I could play, I think, old school Counter-Strike on it and World of Warcraft at the lowest settings. So it was good enough for me. Nowadays, we're spoiled with these Steam Decks that can play at medium settings. So, but, that's besides the point. So with the Razer Switchblade, it actually was really cool. I remember seeing this thing, and I was like, I gotta have one of those. I have got to have one when they release it. Even though it was underpowered, like I said, I was playing World of Warcraft and Counter-Strike with my similar form factor PC or laptop. That's essentially what they were doing with this, was essentially just taking one of those really small laptops back then and then throwing some keys on it. The unique parts of this, they had these little OLED screens, probably what inspired the Stream Deck in some ways. These little keys could be programmed with images, and they did have a laptop, I believe, that had these keys that could be programmed with images. Let's say like League of Legends is a good example. When with your attacks in League of Legends, you would have these icons, and they'd specify what kind of attack they were. And oftentimes most of the heroes had different visually different keys. Ambitious, it looked cool. Probably not very practical now that I think of it. There's a good reason it didn't come to light. And Razer really likes to tease these types of projects, and this is definitely one where they're like, look at this, isn't this cool? But on paper, it was kind of cool, and seeing it was kind of cool. But then when they probably went to go make it and test it, like, this is actually really bad. So probably better that this didn't come out, because it probably would have been a flop, but it's still kind of a cool concept. So with that, it had a resolution of 1024 by 600, and it was limited by the 8 Atom processor too, so it had the Atom processor in it. I don't know which version or what the clock speed on that was, but that's about what it was. And the battery life they were expecting was 4 to 6 hours of gameplay, which sounds way too ambitious back then. Probably like an hour is what you would have gotten back then. It's kind of funny, these predictions that they say they have on these devices, and it's just like, nah, there's no way that would have gotten more than like an hour or two, but who knows. It did have the whole thing of like webcam, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and they were even teasing 3G, so there's that. But once again, it just didn't end up being practical. Okay, this next one is vaporware, more or less, and you might have guessed already, like these three devices that I was going to bring up, but the next one is the SMACH Z, or the SMACH Z, the handheld gaming PC. It was a project that launched October 18th, 2016, and it definitely got my eyes looking at it a little bit. I don't know if I would have bought this, even though it does look a lot like the Steam Deck in some ways, and it was inspired by the Steam controller. I'd say obviously because they have Steam controller components to it. Essentially, you know, those round touch pads. Yeah, they have those in this device, and it actually is very slick. It's a little bit more slick looking than the Steam Deck in some ways, but at the same time, it also looks a little gimmicky. So, while the Steam Deck looks a little rough, this one looked a little gimmicky and a little too smooth at times. But this is one that's been in development for just so long. 6 years is so long. It's almost been 6 years, that is. And they're still kind of giving, no, they gave their last update on like the 2018, I believe. They're like, yeah, we're just delays. We're still going to come out with it. And then I looked in their forums, and there's still people like a couple months ago. They're like, hey, I reserved this. When am I getting it? And it was in the section of the comments where I believe you have to purchase it to actually comment in it. And I was baffled that people are still trying to reserve this, and that Kickstarter, and I think Kickstarter might have shut it down, but Indiegogo still has it, and they have their own Shopify website, and I believe it's a Shopify, or at least they have their own website, and there's still people reserving this. It is crazy. Kind of. I'm assuming there's not too many people that like look at the history and say, you know what, it's been a little bit, but I'm sure they're going to promise, make that promise of the launch year of 2018, which, 2018's been long gone, forever ago, right? But you know what? I'm sure they're going to hit that 2018 date, and I'm going to put some money on that. And they just don't realize that, hey, we're going into like 2022, 2023, 24. The years count up, not backwards. So I don't know what they're expecting. And so it's a little sad to go through the comments, and I'm so sorry if you reserve this. And this is one of those cases where I think because of this, I was a little weary of the Aya Neo, the One X player, and those types of devices. I think this kind of because I saw it, and I saw that like there was not a lot of updates coming out after a certain point, and it kind of put a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth for these types of devices. Even though I love gaming on the go and I love portable PCs, I just, this is the one, man. This is the one where if it comes out cool, I wouldn't put money on it, and I would hopefully try to get your money back. Even if it does come out, this has been way too long in development, and they did not do justice by updating people well enough. So in the end, it is definitely a failed project, and it's beyond just like what the other two on this list are. This was something that took money from people and promised people a lot and didn't deliver anything. So in the end, this is a very dangerous project and a very dangerous piece of vaporware that I just definitely recommend staying away from. Unless you have a lot of money, then sure, YOLO it, I guess. So the tech specs for this was an AMD Ryzen V1605B, which for when around the time it was, not a bad choice, with a Vega 8 graphics card, 256 gigabytes of SSD storage, and it had different versions, right? The SMACH Z, the SMACH Z Pro, and that varies between what kind of size of storage it really had. The screen was a 6-inch full HD 1920 by 1080 captive touchscreen, so a little bit higher resolution than the Steam Deck, but a smaller screen, which is an interesting choice on that. And I think bare minimum 5 inches is like the smallest you can go. But I'm liking kind of where the Steam Deck is. So battery life, 5 hours of gaming is what they claim on a 3200 milliamp battery. Once again, like all before, it probably would have gotten an hour or two, which, I mean, these are PCs in your hand. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there where things are gonna be optimized, I feel like. So We'll get there. They had a bunch of other bells and whistles, you know, that you'd expect out of something like this. Nothing like that's different than what you'd expect out of an iNeo, I believe, with connectivity with, you know, USB-C and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. And in the Pro model even had a camera on it, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Once again, don't reserve this. It was a failed product. Okay, so Alienware UFO CES 2020 is when it was revealed that, hey, maybe they might do something with this, which was 2 years ago from the recording of this video, a little over 2 years. But this was notable to be like, they essentially saw the Switch and was like, you know what, we should make a little bit bigger, okay, a lot of bit bigger version of the Switch, but for PC gamers. And they were really onto something. Really, to be honest, I am surprised they didn't go through with this. I think they would have owned the market early on, and it's probably what inspired some other projects. But it had a kickstand. It had a pretty interesting, like, full panel kickstand that came out, and then it had it had a similar form factor, like with the controller pieces like popping out a little bit, so you'd have something more to grip on. Unlike the Steam, the Switch, the Switch has, you know, a very thin controller. So for bigger hands or chunkier hands like mine, it just didn't feel, they don't feel as well. I actually have these to help with that if I'm doing long gaming sessions. And so, yeah, it definitely looked good. And in fact, I'll be honest, I think I actually like the Alienware UFO a little bit more than the Steam Deck looks. My personal opinion, I don't even like white that much, but I love the white on this. I loved every aspect of this, actually. And I like the repairability, and I'd rather take repairability over removable controllers. But the removable controllers in the Alienware UFO, I think were awesome. I like the idea that I could go on the go, kickstand it, pull them out, throw them into, you know, just like the Switch, and just play like this instead of like this. I like the concept of that. Once again, this is on paper. This is without me touching the Steam Deck yet. And so, you know, take that with a grain of salt, I guess. It never really had a solid spec sheet. I believe it was Intel's Gen 10s around that time. But beyond that, from my understanding, they didn't really have anything. But it would have been probably 16 gigs, a 10, you know, an Intel 10th generation, probably onboard graphics for the most part. I only saw one fan in the back, so they probably wouldn't be able to stick much more than integrated. And it just hasn't come out yet. It's been 2 years though, so you got to understand sometimes prototypes can take a while. We can learn that from the SMACH Z. Their prototype is still in works, guys. It's still coming out. The SMACH Z is going to come out and smack you in the face with how good it is. But the Alienware UFO, it still could come out. I know there's people that are saying it won't. I'm not going to say whether or not it will or not. I think there's a market for everything right now. Like, I think the market's just kind of, iNeo Next is going to do well, I believe. And so Steam Deck is going to own the market, but there's still games and there's still gaming laptops where one owns the market, or I believe like one's the better of them all, but there's still competition. So with that, we're not going to be able to beat the price, but maybe they could team up with Epic Games and make it a little bit more affordable or something. There could be something that goes on with this. I'm going to leave it at that for those three devices. The Alienware UFO is definitely, out of the three, my favorite, and the one that I would actually like to see still come out. I would actually consider buying it, even with a Steam Deck. But I'm also doing this channel. I want to give you guys all the best content I can, even though it's a little hard not having the Steam Deck right now. Okay, so a little bit of runner-ups, and these aren't PC gaming handhelds, but these are just gaming handhelds alone that failed, and I'm not going to include the PS Vita on there, even though people say it failed. I still love my PS Vita. I have it right here. I don't think it failed in my eyes and my heart. My heart, it did not fail. But these other ones, which I actually did own, almost owned two of these. The N-Gage, which is a phone. I got rid of it before it became worthless. It's not really worthless, actually. There's a whole Reddit forum on that, which is a whole other story. The N-Gage had Tony Hawk, and I played the crap out of it. It was one of the first phones I bought, and I loved playing Tony Hawk on that thing. Even though it wasn't the best device, it was still fun. The other one was the NVIDIA gaming controller, or I can't even remember what it was called, But yeah, it's just essentially a controller, almost like thing that had an Android system in it with a little screen that would fold up and down, right? And I don't think it was horrible. And you could stream games from NVIDIA's system. Just NVIDIA's, like, they have a streaming system where you could stream games from your computer, and you could do it with this. And that was actually one of the things I was going to do with it. Love the concept. I just didn't want to spend the money on it at the time. I'd rather have something like the Steam Deck, actually. If the Steam Deck was out back then, I probably would have saved up money and bought it. And then this is more of just a joke. The Soldier Boy's handheld gaming device, that thing just is a flop, right? And so I just wanted to throw that in there as a fun ending, because, man, people are just, famous people want to release crap because they think they can make more money from it. I don't get these concepts of like what people are doing in releasing these types of like cryptocurrency, and that's we're not even gonna get into that, but like all these famous YouTubers, all these famous people releasing things that just they have no concept about. Stop doing it. Stop. But Alienware, please please do release it. I'm curious if it could be really good. So with that being said, that is it for right now. This is the end of the video, the end of the line. Let me know in the comments below if I missed anything, what you thought of this, if what you liked. Which one of these devices would you get over the other? Let me know. I want to know. I want to know it all. And with that, check out my videos behind me, after this video, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later, guys. Later!